Hi, everyone. This is John Wesley Shipp, and you're listening to Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life.
Welcome one and all. This is Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. The world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, television, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I am your host, Joe Stuber, closing out my look back at my adventure to TerrifiCon. Yeah, that is Connecticut's #1 comics and pop culture convention. And what a way to close things out. My guest today is none other than the OG Flash. He's the original Barry Allen. He played numerous characters on the recent Flash TV series. He is a multiple Emmy award-winning actor, a star of stage and screen, and the guest that has appeared on Comic Book Central more times than any other. Look, go back in the archive, comicbookcentral.net, just type in Shipp in the search engine. I can only be talking about the great John Wesley Shipp. So many episodes out there. We've chatted a lot. And I've always said TerrifiCon always goes next level when the Shipp comes in. Now, Mitch Halleck, he is the man behind TerrifiCon. My thanks to him for making Comic Book Central always feel welcome at the show. John was Mitch's first celebrity convention guest. He's appeared so many times at the show. He is absolutely a fan fave. Everybody goes nuts when he walks in the building. And yeah, I get the honor of moderating his Q&As, which are always unpredictable. Love each and every one of them. This year was no exception. You will hear our chat straight ahead. But I want to make a quick mention here. If you want to meet up with John in person before the end of this year, yeah, you've got a chance. Right here, it's in my backyard of Columbus, Ohio. I always travel to TerrifiCon in Connecticut, but I'm here in Columbus, Ohio. GalaxyCon, December 5th through the 7th, galaxycon.com. That's where you get your tickets. I'll be there, and John is going to be there as well. I will hope you are going to be there, and I hope you'll be at TerrifiCon in 2026 as well. Get your tickets for TerrifiCon at terrificon.com. Show up to my panels, get your questions ready, be part of the fun. Quick programming note. Oh, so much going on. My 12th anniversary special, that's coming up next. You still have a little time to get your anniversary greetings to me, and you can tell me your favorite guests from the past year of the show. Drop me a line, joe@comicbookcentral.net. You can leave a voicemail at the website, comicbookcentral.net. Just click the voicemail toggle on the right-hand side of the homepage. I'll get your messages on my upcoming 12th anniversary special. I know that was a lot of information, but GalaxyCon Columbus, TerrifiCon 2026, Comic Book Central 12th anniversary special. Get those greetings in. All right, that's all the plugs. Let's get to the fun. Stand by for a visit from the OG Scarlet Speedster, John Wesley Shipp. Joining us now is an incredibly talented performer. He is not only a veteran of stage and screen, he is a veteran of TerrifiCon itself. He is also an Emmy-winning actor, and of course, he's the OG fastest man alive. A big welcome back to TerrifiCon for John Wesley Shipp. I love that you're a hugger. You and Doug Jones are like probably the two best huggers on the planet. Yeah. You guys are the best huggers ever. So I
learned from my dad. He was a hugger, man. You knew you had been hugged when you got wrapped in that bear hug.
If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. TerrifiCon always goes next level when the Shipp comes in. Thank you so much for being here. I think we've done 3 of these previously. I love doing these. This is my favorite part of TerrifiCon. I look forward to every time you're here. We were going to do a 4th one. I'm not sure if you recall. I was looking forward to it. I had all my questions ready, I had everything ready to go, and it was 2023. Dun, dun, dun. And it was the Hollywood strikes that came up, and so we didn't get a chance to do it. Is there anything you would have liked to have said in 2023 that you can now say unfettered in the world?
Well, the weird thing about the strike was nobody knew what we could say.
Yeah.
And so the first conventions we did, they put us behind plastic screens. They told us to stay 6 feet apart for selfies. Now, imagine taking a selfie, me and Joe, and I'm over here.
Yeah.
Brandon Roth was behind a big plexiglass, and they had a plastic sheet in between us for the photo ops that they could
I'm giving this to, listen, I know how this
that they
works.
could blot out.
You broke your own record. You jumped up before I even had a chance. 30 seconds in.
I know, I
yeah,
can't sit down.
I've
I
lost
can't sit
control.
down with these things. You were there, you know, and we did the heart through the plastic. But, you know, I spent about 5-10 minutes talking to people through a plexiglass barrier and standing 6 feet apart, and I'm like, nuts to this, you know. I kept my mask on whenever I was away from the table to be a responsible citizen. But, you know, I mean, we had to do selfies standing beside each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, but nobody knew what we could, that was COVID, but nobody knew what we could talk about.
That was the thing. I did we did do some Q&As this year. Oh, you can just hang on. Listen, you're going to be up in like 5 seconds anyway. Just hang on to it. I know this. My record, I think my record for keeping John Wesley Shipp in a chair is like 8 minutes. And you've destroyed that now. It's just obliterated. It's gone. So we've got some things on the stage here. You're premiering these at TerrifiCon. I got to say, we're in the sweet spot of 2 big anniversaries. Tail end of last year, 10th anniversary of The Flash on the CW, and then coming up next month,
September 20th.
35th anniversary of the OG Flash TV series. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
There's all kinds of anniversaries going on.
Thank you for hanging in there with me.
Tell us what
You've kept me employed for 35 years. I'm so grateful.
You've kept us entertained for 35 years. So that it just goes both ways here, you know. You've brought props. You brought things.
I actually brought props.
I love it.
I was notorious for I never kept anything. When I got out of the original Flash suit at 5 in the morning and we were fighting the sun coming up in some godforsaken hole in southeast LA because there was a building that was built in 1920 that we had to get in our art direction. By the way, we were nominated for an Emmy for art direction. And, but it was always, we were plasterboarding over syringes and human feces. I mean, we were in, but they wanted to get the buildings that were built at a certain time, and we were always in these back alleys. The sun was coming up one more time, and we're fighting to get the last shot in before the sun comes up. Me and Mark Hamill in Southeast LA, they finally yell, "Cut, series wrap," and I ripped the wings off and threw them in the air and swore I would never again get into another superhero suit. Honest to God.
Yeah.
Well, Hamill almost lost his mind because he's a big collector. So he's like, oh my God. You know, he's crawling around garbage cans and under cords and cables. Don't let him get away. So Hamill has one of the wings from the original suit. And Danny Bilson has the other one. I can't think of 2 people I would rather have them. You know what I mean? But it never occurred to me to keep anything.
Well, but that too, but in all fairness, that suit was like the bane of your existence too, because you wouldn't you like, you know, and cut, and you take the glove off and you would just pour like sweat out of it, right? Like these weren't made like they are now. Like they have these like little things run up like astronauts and they cool them down, stuff like that, like all kinds of crazy stuff. You had to like legitimately put this giant foam rubber thing on. So you hated that suit, right? I mean,
I really
at the time,
did.
you love it now, yay, but
I am respectful. It was both of the Flash suits, new show, old show, were designed and built by Oscar winners. Bob Short in 1990, Colleen Atwood in 2014. So they have a great pedigree, and it served its purpose. And so many people come up to me today and say, you know, your original Flash suit is my favorite. $100,000 to build 4 suits in 1990.
right.
And it was sculpted foam latex over a body cast of me, flocked with the red material, and then they had to spray it with a sealant because I was sweating through these inches of foam latex. I'd have the suit on and you could come up to me and wring me out. And what you were talking about was they'd pull the glove off and you'd hear the suction and I could feel it all the way and it would be full of sweat up to the wrist and they would just turn it upside down and they would dump the sweat out. So that was a challenge. Can I stop and interrupt myself here and say, Nobody wants to hear actors who have been privileged to play these iconic parts stand up here and whine about my suit was so hard, you know. But we are like a fraternity and a sorority of people who have played costume superheroes, and we all have similar stories. There were challenges, particularly 35 years ago. So another challenge was they couldn't clean them because the foam latex started crumbling from like the third episode. So they'd hang them in my trailer, spray it with Lysol, and it would still be wet and sticky when I put it on the next morning. Well, I began to get really sort of like, oh my God, the alarm would go off. Is it 6 a.m. or 6 p.m.? Once it was my call time, and I drove to Warner Brothers Studios, and all the trailers were gone. My trailer was gone. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, Danny, did we get canceled? What happened? He said, John, we're on location today. You know, so I never knew where I was. I found out later that they were talking about getting me a psychologist or a psychotherapist to help me deal with being in the suit. I said, Danny, it's not a psychological issue, it's hot. You know, I broke out all over my back, you know. But another really fun thing that I like to tell is that I couldn't sit down in it because it would crease. By the way, Warner Brothers went into the archives a year and a half ago and went scene by scene with the original footage and did 4K upreses and put it on Blu-ray. I have never seen it look this good. And they fixed the special effects that were damaged when they had to transfer them from digital to film to put them on TV originally. So now it looks like it was meant to look. And I'm gonna try to not ask you what the question was or...
Oh, no. This is a free-for-all. No. We're in free-for-all mode now. Just whatever happens.
I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit down.
You mentioned that. We were talking about this over there, but you mentioned that like there was a trick that you did, but you had to be careful. With the trick.
With the trick?
Well, you had some,
no.
Like you had some vices, maybe? Like, did you have vices?
They had an answer to not being able to sit down. I look over, and here comes these grips wheeling out this big black lean board that I found out was the Betty Davis lean board for the costume. I know, real macho, right? Real superhero, for the costume epics when the ladies were wearing the ball gowns and they couldn't sit down. And so what I would do, by the time the series came around, they did have a vest under the suit. I would hop up onto this lean board, lean back, they would take the hose out, plug me into an ice chest, and circulate ice water through the vest to wake me up. And the directors always knew when it was time to maybe plug me in and wake me up and bring my body temperature down. But what Joe was talking about, there was this one time somebody snapped a picture and showed it to me. Apparently, on a given day, I will neither confirm nor deny that I was up in the lean board with a Diet Coke in this hand and a cigarette in this hand. And somebody took a picture of it, and I said, don't let that get out. Give me that picture, give me that negative. That cannot get out.
That's great. Has it survived to this day? Have you seen it anywhere?
I have not. I wish I had it now.
All right. Because it would be all over social media.
It would be funny.
Okay, we got away from what we have here. This is some cool stuff. This is, okay, so on my left, audience right, so there'd be this, you tell it, I'm not going to tell it. What do we got?
This, originally, the picture helmet was an actual doughboy's helmet from World War I with wings soldered into it. I'm such a klutz. The first time I wore it, I dropped it. And everyone was like, you know, because there's this doughboy original helmet. And if you could see, when they made 3 duplicates, which were lighter weight, and which I actually wore in the episodes. This is the actual helmet I wore in the series finale in the 9th season. But as you can see, when they made it with the dent that I originally made when I dropped the helmet.
That's perfect. That is so perfect. Can I?
Do it. Go ahead, Joe.
All right.
Only you.
Can I do this? Dream come
Take
true.
our picture. Somebody take our picture.
There, now it's...
What?
I can't believe this. Dream achieved. Okay, thank you. I can die happy man now. All right, what else do we got over here? This is
the new cowl that was built for Elseworlds. Let me tell you, they surprised me by announcing I was the man in the Iron Mask. Then they surprised me by announcing that I was going to be the real Jay Garrick. And then they said, we're sending a digital team to New York to scan you for a new suit. And I was like, oh, cool, Jay Garrick's getting a new suit. This is really great. And then I saw the drawings. And I called him, I said, wait a minute, what suit are we talking about here? Oh, we want to talk to you about bringing your OG Flash into the seat. I said, are you kidding? I said, that was 28 years ago. I said, do any of you want to do a 28-year challenge? And they said, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Well, I talked to them that they were really going to give my Barry a hero's send-off in Crisis on Infinite Earths and the way that they were going to do it. And they sent up from Warner Archives in a coffin the last suit that I wore. I know it was the last suit that I wore because it was missing the wings.
And it smelled like Lysol or something,
Oh
right?
my God, I said, nobody go near that thing. I think you could have poked a hole right through it. But anyway, as reference, and then they used more breathable materials, it was a different process, and I'm gonna talk loud enough.
Here, I'll hold the mic here.
They no longer had to glue it to my face and under my chin, and there was a zipper in between takes. I could zip it up the back and flip the cowl forward and let the steam out in between takes. So it was a lot more, well, there should have been, some improvements made in a quarter of a century, don't you think? But
we're getting much better at this, by the way, too. We should do a two-man stage play or something.
I think
we're getting
so.
very good at this.
I think so.
We're getting very good. I'm sorry, go ahead. Talk
we
about
can
the
read
cowl.
each other's minds.
I know, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah, but so this time, in the very last episode, I got to say in the last 13 episodes of season 9, I got to say goodbye to Henry Allen, and I got to say goodbye to Jay Garrick in the series finale, and that's the actual helmet that I wore in the series finale. And I was like, I'm a preacher's kid, so it's like, we either go one of two ways. Either we are the worst behaved people on the planet, or we don't want to make a mistake. And I tend to fall on the I don't want to make a mistake. So I was like, I got to keep this helmet. And so I went to the prop guy. He said, don't worry, I'll get it for you. And then he said, you got to call the executive producer. And so I called him, and I had my speech ready. And I was saying, listen, I've been associated with this character for so long, and I've played Jay Garrick now for 6 years, and I really haven't kept anything from any of the flash stuff that I've done through the years. And I would really like to keep this helmet because it's really special to me, and I know you have 2 others. In addition to that, he said, John. I said, what? He said, I've already okayed it. You can stop arguing. I said, oh, okay. And so I got to keep the one that I wore in the series finale. But yeah, it just never occurred to me. And then I hear Mark Hamill practically has a second house where he has all the memorabilia. I mean, when the Trickster came back and they did the Trickster's Lair, the CW Flash, he brought items that he used in the 1990 Flash that he still had to help decorate the set. He's a big collector, and I'll tell you, I wish I had been through the years, but better late than never.
Listen, you figured it out, and I tell you, I think that's why what we love about you so much is that
I'm slow.
No. I'm going back. I'm going to take a step back. There's a sense of humility with you that, like, because they always say, don't meet your heroes or something, but it's like you should meet your heroes because they're like John Wesley Shipp. There's like you made a speech of like. I don't think you get that you don't have to because like you're like the OG superhero and it's like somebody could have just walked on that set and said, hey guys, I've been doing this forever. And I think that part of you goes through your characters. And I think that's what we love about you. I'm just speaking for myself.
Thank
but I think
you so much. Thank you.
Look, I'm sure we're going to take some audience questions. There's a mic over here. You guys have to have a ton of questions. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of flash questions. Before we get to that, I want to ask you about the Caine Mutiny court-martial.
Yes.
You got to reunite with your One Life to Live castmate, David A. Gregory.
David Gregory.
Okay,
yes.
This took place in April?
April.
Okay, walk us through this a little bit, because obviously, so the Caine Mutiny, and then Herman Wouk wrote the follow-up, like as a stage play. I'm trying to get the history right. But did he write it as a stage play? Okay, back in the 50s? Okay, so how familiar were you with the work, and then how did this project come into your life?
Well, thank God I had not seen the movie. I'd only seen parts of Humphrey Bogart playing Captain Queeg, part of his testimony where he's being all neurotic and, Captain Queeg. In the book, I read the book. Queeg is horrible in the book. And I had a relationship with the Judson Theater in North Carolina. I had done 12 Angry Men there in 2016 while I was shooting The Flash. And so they asked me to come and if I'd be interested in doing the Caine Mutiny court-martial and playing Captain Queeg. I said, are you kidding? I would love to do that part. And then I was like, you got to get David Gregory, because he could play Greenwald, he can play the defense attorney for the guy whose court-martial it is, and the way he defends the guy who's on trial is by ripping me apart and exposing me. Now, in the book, Queeg is mean, but I wanted to do our version. So using contemporary knowledge of PTSD and the cost to the psychology of our brave men and women who defend our country, particularly in times of war, particularly at the outbreak of World War II, when there weren't enough captains to go around and people were promoted to positions for which they were not either skill-wise or psychologically prepared to handle. So I said, well, if we go, they called it shell shock back then. If we go from our modern understanding of PTSD, what if, I had a director say, John, every time you say what if, you cost me $5,000. What if, instead of being intentionally mean and lying and blaming, he's actually convinced himself that he's blameless and that it is everyone else's fault? What if he truly believes it, what he's saying? And then Greenwald's job, I don't know if you know the play, about cutting the tow line, dropping the yellow marker, all of these things. What if one by one he strips off my layers of denial? And the coup de grace, after the famous Strawberries monologue, I got so many strawberries doing that play. Anyway, was reading my assessment of the guy who I was blaming for everyone, which was a rave. And at that point, I realized, oh my God, it was me. It was me. It wasn't all these guys that I've been shaming and blaming through this whole trial. It was me. And it gave Queeg a dimension that I had never seen him have before, whether it was Kiefer Sutherland, whether it was whoever was playing it. There have been several versions. And my director, when I got done with the Strawberry monologue, where I totally crumble on the stand at the end of that, and you see me realizing that it was been me all the time, and that I have been blaming this guy, and I have to get off the stand and turn to him before I leave, but I'm a broken man by that point. And I remember a director saying, God, John, at the end of that monologue, I actually feel sorry for this guy. And I'm like, yes! I said, because this is our version of the Caine Mutiny court-martial, which is why these classics can be done again and again and again. And every time you see them with a different cast, you see a different show, And that was our version. And I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I want to tap, because the performance was beyond compelling. It's just, I've got a couple questions about it, but you tapped into something there too, because I think George Clooney recently tapped into that with Good Night and Good Luck. He took that to Broadway. And he mentioned about some of these things, especially live in the moment with a live audience like we've got here, is sometimes you can use those plays, those stories as metaphors for what's going on in society. And he obviously tapped hard into that with Good Night and Good Luck. Is that something you get a sense of when you were doing something like that? Or like you talked about PTSD, like bringing it to a modern era, but is that something that you kind of look at, or that maybe the storytellers look at, is how can we maybe make a comment on some things?
The storytellers, perhaps. Me, never.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get up on stage and preach a sermon. I want to get up on stage and bring a character to life, whether he's wearing a red foam latex suit, or he's in a naval captain's uniform, or he's this crazy dad on Teen Wolf terrorizing his son, you know. Whatever it is, I feel like my job is to get to the heart of the character and to bring the character to life as I understand it. And if people can identify with the struggles of the characters that I'm playing and can see something of themselves in the character, then I've done my job. Because for me, theater is about human empathy. It's about the ability to see ourselves and each other on a screen or on a stage and go, oh my God, I know what that means. I've had that experience. So my only concern when I am approaching a part, whether it's a psychopath or a superhero, is who is this guy, particularly if it's a bad guy. I have 2 Emmys, both playing psychopaths. Good guys don't get Emmys, but you know, they're actually harder to play, but that's another discussion. The good guys are harder to play. But try to find the wound. If this guy is running around doing all these terrible things, what happened to him? And I have to construct a history for that character and a memory of the wound. And so I don't play the evil acts, except Teen Wolf. That character was irredeemable, anyone who's seen it. I find the wound and I play the wound. And that way you could say, and people commented on it, it was in the reviews. It was like, it's clear Captain Queek should never captain another naval vessel ever again. And we got a window into what happened to him. And the cost, you know, as I said, that our brave men and women pay, you know, for being our defenders and our champions around the world, particularly in wartime.
It's interesting your take on that, because it wasn't the first time you were treading the board. You mentioned 2016, 12 Angry Men, but 1993, the killing of Michael Malloy, you're in that. And it's, when you're talking about this, I pulled this quote out. Variety said about your performance. Do you know what the Variety said about your performance? In 1993, Shipp takes a despicable character and imbues him with self-pity, if not understanding. And that just seems to just play out through everything you're talking about. So
yeah. You played Maurice Roeves, Irish actor, played this old drunk, based on a true story. I'm going to talk really fast because I'm running out of time.
You're the fastest man alive. Go.
It was a true story in the 30s. There was this sober guy, didn't touch or drink a liquor, who hated anyone who drank, and alcoholics particularly, because his dad, he owned a bar. So he was serving drinks to people that he, you know, really had no respect for. Well, they figured out this scheme that they would take insurance. There was this one drunk that kept coming back. They would take insurance out on him, and then they would kill him and collect the insurance. True story. And they started by putting horse liniment in his drinks. Didn't kill him. They took him out to the park in sub-freezing weather in the snow, doused him with water. He shows up. They can't kill him. There are several things. They hit him with a truck and they think he's dead. He shows back up for another drink. And so in the process of this play, my character starts to freak out. He starts to ascend, and we had this beautiful Eugene O'Neill writing, really. Eric Jenderson, who wrote Band of Brothers, wrote it. And we rode together for a while, and then he ascends, and I absolutely descend, and by the end, I'm a sniveling drunk at the end of the bar. And Tom Cavanaugh just told me, he said, Eric Jengerson. I said, yeah. He said, I just talked to him. He said, you destroyed audiences every night in the killing of Michael Malloy in Los Angeles. I said, did he say that? He said, yeah. I said, yes.
Nice.
I'm so, but I don't know how I got into that long story. But anyway.
Because I asked you about it.
There are no short answers after 60. I just want to warn you.
I'm going to add, do you guys have any audience questions? 'Cause, look, here's the thing. I know you like to run around in the audience. Are we doing that, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? We're over here.
Okay, who has a question?
You know I'm going to ask.
Okay.
I need to know the fishing lesson.
The fishing lesson.
Yes, I wrote to you online about your fishing setup, particularly going through as far as catching scallops.
Oh, I just did a short film called Scallop Season last month in Clearwater, Florida, playing a bad dad. And it's a short film. It'll be at festivals. Really good little script, and they're trying to get funding to turn it into a full feature. Yeah, that was a great experience too. I did that after I did the play. So now that Flash is over, getting to mix it up a little. Anyone else? Anyone?
Hi, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you've essentially played two different Jay Garricks, one on Stargirl, one on The Flash. I assume they're two different versions, and if they were, what did you do as an actor to differentiate them?
This has been a debate that we actually have settled, but continues to rage through the comic book universe. Is it the same Jay Garrick? The answer, although maybe not quite the most interesting answer, is yes. It is the same Jay Garrick during the period of the Justice Society. You know what some fans said to me? They said, you were more Jay Garrick on Stargirl even than you were on Flash. I said, I can explain that. Because Flash was the Justice League, and I was an advisor. When I walked onto the set on Stargirl, it was the Justice Society, and I was sitting in my seat of authority. And it felt different, and it played different, and I'm so glad Jeff Johns gave me that opportunity. Anyone who doesn't know, the character of Stargirl was created by Jeff Johns in honor of his sister who died in her teens. And he created the character of Stargirl in honor of her. So it was a very special feeling on that set. Did I just bring everybody down? Okay, questions? Yes. I took a picture with this girl, stand up, 6 years ago when she was this big. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you. So other than reprising your original role of the Flash in the new series, which one was your favorite other character to play?
You know, I've heard an actor say, and I wish I thought of it, it's like trying to pick a favorite child. You know? I mean, there was something in every character that I've played, except for Teen Wolf, that I was able to fall in love with, you know, that I was able to understand and occupy and flesh out. So it would be very hard. It would be very hard to beat my Broadway experience in the Tony Award-winning play, Irish play, came over from the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, Dancing at Lunasa, that won the Tony for Best Drama that year. That's a hard one to beat. That writing is so beautiful, as deep as you want to go, as many times as you want to perform it, you always find something new. Yes?
Yes, John. How was it like filming the Crisis on Infinite Earths episodes?
It was an amazing experience. You know, I have to be careful when I act not to watch what I've done too close to the time that I did it. Because I'll see it and I'll go, that's not what I meant to do. That's not what I intended. What's coming across is not. Well, if I wait, I forget what I intended to do. And I can just enjoy what I did. Not true with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Every part of that story, from the writing of it, and the guy who wrote it said that they didn't know quite how I was going to react, you know, killing my Flash that I'd been, you know. But it was so beautiful. He said, I was at the typewriter crying while I was writing this story, you know, and you felt that. And I loved the way they did it. It wasn't sentimentalized. It wasn't mushy. It was like, okay, I'm going to steal your speed. This is my sacrifice to make. You know, you better let me in. I even got to yell at Carlos, "You want your friend to die?" Poor Carlos. And then I go into the treadmill and I say, the last thing I say to him is, "Keep riding the lightning, kid. You're going to make us all proud." And then they dropped in the moment from the 1990 Flash, which I didn't know they were going to do until looping. And they said, "We have a surprise for you." And I hear my voice from 30 years ago saying, "I believe in you, Tina." And then you see my young face and you see Amanda Pay's young face. She says, "I believe in you too, Barry." And then they cut back to me running on the treadmill. What that accomplished was I now knew what I was running away from, but also what I was running toward. And the success of that whole part of that crossover was summed up for me in a review that is one of my favorite reviews. They said, all of us took what could have been a harrowing moment and turned it into a triumphant one. So when I watched that, right after I did it, I was like, wow. From the directing to the acting to the fact that every time Grant was in the foreground, I'm out of focus in the background. I got to welcome Black Lightning into the situation. I would not change a single thing about Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yes?
Hi, so you started The Flash playing Henry Allen, and then you shifted also to playing Jay Garrick. I was just wondering if you could talk about that, because I've never read about anything behind the scenes. Was it always going to be, we'll have John Wesley Shipp also play Jay Garrick because that makes sense? Was there discussion of other actors involved because you already had a part?
I'll tell you the way it happened for me. I was playing Henry Allen. I thought I'd have one, maybe 2 seasons. And when I was coming back at the end of season 2, was it? To do 4 episodes, I thought, okay, Henry Allen is going to exit the scene now, and that's what this story is going to be about. Okay, I go into wardrobe fitting, and the costume designer is trying on this brown, ripped prison suit. I said, "Henry's already out of prison. What is this all about?" She said, "Of course, you'll be fitted for the iron helmet separately." And I said, "The iron what?" And she said, "You don't know? Oh my God, I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you." So then I'm sitting off camera with Jesse Martin and Grant in between takes. So good to see you again. In between takes. And they're like, "So did you hear what you're going to be doing next season?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the man in the iron mask. Go figure." And they're like, "Yeah, that's all you know?" I'm like, "There's more." They said, "You're the real Jay Garrick." I said, "Get out of town. Are you kidding?" And then I called my good friend Greg Berlanti, who was also a producer on Dawson's Creek. And I said, "Greg, I'm hearing rumors about parts I may or may not be playing going forward. Could you give me a call?" And he was like, "Oh my God. They haven't cleared it with you?" I mean, wouldn't it have been a mess if I had said, 26 years later, I don't want to go back into a superhero suit. But then he spun out this story where you're going to die in the penultimate episode of the season. At the beginning of the finale, you're going to be revealed as the man in the iron mask, who is a doppelganger of Barry Allen's father, who turns out to be the real Jay Garrick, which is the part y'all wanted me to play to begin with. And I was like, take me out of it. That is just good storytelling. I said, of course I'll play that story. But they kept it interesting for all of us. And then Flash 90 comes back. I'm like, what next? I mean, it was an amazing, amazing journey. Really, truly.
Did you have a favorite episode of The Flash that you most enjoyed filming?
An actor once said, and I wish I had said it, that it's like picking a favorite child. It's so hard, and I've been a professional actor to the exclusion of anything else for 47 years. And so that's a lot of characters. Drug-addicted cop on NYPD Blue. Really good, if not incredibly bright dad on Dawson's Creek, but really loving. A really brilliant heart surgeon who loves his son, on the CW Flash and just wants him to go live his life, you know. And I go through all these things. I go through the first time I did my jump to primetime, which was 1990 Flash. And they had just painted the towers at Burbank Studios. They had repainted them Warner Brothers Studios. And I'm driving over Barham Boulevard on my way to work. And you get up to the top of the hill and you see the studio and you see Warner Brothers Studios. And I have a parking place on that lot. And I was like, man, I get chills now just thinking about it. I was like, man, it doesn't get any better than this, you know? So there are different characters that I've loved for different. I loved playing Commander Queeg. He was such a broken man. And to get inside his skin for a little while was amazing. So I don't know how to pick. Let me ask you, of the episodes of what you've seen me do you have one that stands out or a favorite?
I feel like that's so hard to pick. I know what you mean.
Yeah, of course I enjoyed doing, does anybody know, no, you're all too young, the Patty Duke show where she played twins? Meet Patty, who's lived most everywhere. Well, I got to do that on the original Flash. I played the blue Flash and the red Flash. And so I was doing scenes with myself, you know, and Barry didn't like Pollux. He didn't trust him, he didn't like him. But Pollux ends up taking a bullet for Barry at the end of that episode, Twin Streaks. And the message is, your assets are the flip side of your defects, and be careful what you ask to have removed of yourself that you don't like. Because Pollux represented the part of Barry that he didn't like. He didn't want to be a superhero. He didn't ask for super speed. He wanted to be rid of it until his brother was killed. And how many times do you get the opportunity to die in your own arms? You know, how cool is that? I love my job.
All right, I'm going to bring you back up on stage here so we can stop.
Oh, Killjoy.
So I know. I'm trying to stop driving the camera crew crazy at this point.
Okay, Dad.
Bill, I know. I'm going to wrap up with a couple quick questions here. I wish you were at TerrifiCon every year. This is what we need to have. John Wesley Shipp at TerrifiCon every year.
You guys are so kind. Thank you. Thank you.
We're a little over 2 years removed from the Flash series finale.
Are we?
A little over that, yeah. Am I right?
2023, you are absolutely right.
Okay. Math is hard.
Wow.
Math is hard, I know, for me. What perspective do you have now? I know when you're in the middle of it, you're filming, 5 a.m. call times, all these different things. Totally different perspective. But when you can remove yourself from it and look back at in totality, what perspective do you have now on the series?
On the CW Flash?
Yeah.
The perspective that I had when I heard they wanted me to play Henry Allen, and I heard there was this new young actor who was doing a backdoor pilot on Arrow, Grant Gustin, explaining to the Arrow team who he was. And I looked at this 24-year-old kid, sorry, Grant, and I was like, you can't see the acting. It's just truth. And for that entire first season with Henry in Iron Heights, and that's why I wanted Henry Allen, because I knew a big superhero show, lots of special effects, music, noise, loud, action. We walk into Iron Heights, we walk into that phone booth, we're in a confined space, we can't do any of our business, that we so like to do, pick up the phones, look at each other, and tell the truth. And that was our job for a whole year. People said, how did you work up that emotion? I said, the problem wasn't working up the emotion. The problem was not letting the emotion run away with you. Because we've all seen actors give performances, and they're terrific criers, but they're doing all the crying. There's no room for us, you know what I mean? So it was trying to find that balance. I have to tell you this quick story. The pilot of CW Flash. David Nutter, Emmy Award-winning director, The Red Wedding. What's the name of that show? What? Game of Thrones, yes. Well, he directed our pilot. And before that last prison scene, he came up to me backstage before my close-ups, hands me a bottle of water, very softly says, John, we've written some lines that we didn't want you to hear until this moment. And we wrote them to honor what you have meant to this franchise through the years and how glad we are that you're back. So don't come in when you hear your cue. Wait until Grant says whatever, I can't even remember what the cue line was now. Well, that did a couple of things. Now I'm listening like crazy. I don't know what he's going to say. My entire attention is on Grant. Meisner would be so proud. And actors in the audience know what I'm talking about. But, and so all of a sudden, for the first time, because, you know, I was the old Flash. I didn't know if they'd want me to be in the new show. I didn't know how the kids would feel about me coming back and piggybacking on their new show. And out of his mouth come the words, I can't get through this story. He said, you remember when you told me that you wanted me to change my name because you didn't want anyone to associate me with you? He said, well, I'm glad I didn't change my name. I am proud of you, and I am proud to be your son. Well, that affected me in the feels so bad that I completely broke. And it was that situation where my face was moving uncontrollably. I just had to look down, and the tears were coming, and I knew this is never going to work. Thank God we had smart producers, the other room, that said, okay, everyone freeze. Go back to the top of Barry's monologue and start again. Well, the emotion was there. Everything was worked up. We were ready, but this time it was under control. You know, we didn't leave you guys out. And, but that was one of the most meaningful things to me because it was such an affirmation. It's like when I put on the 1990 suit for the first time, I was like, these kids, how are they going to respect 28 years ago? It's what? And I walk on stage, and the cast of all the different shows are there, and they applaud. And Grant, to give you an idea who he is, he brings the camera up, turns the monitor around, and says, see how great you look? And I look over here, and here's Candace Patton going. I mean, that's who the Flash cast was and is. And those are my fondest memories, and I know I'm out of time.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Wesley Shipp. Yeah, like I said, TerrifiCon always goes next level when the ship comes in, and you just heard why. If you haven't heard my past episodes with John, go check them out, comicbookcentral.net. Go to the archive. You can there's a search engine there. Just type in Shipp, S-H-I-P-P, and all the episodes come up. Go check them out. Can't wait to meet up with him again at GalaxyCon here in Columbus, December 5th through the 7th. GalaxyCon.com to get your tickets. TerrifiCon.com. Get your tickets to the show in 2026. I hope to see you at both events. All right, kids, that is it. I'm exhausted. 7 episodes. You've heard the fun we've had at TerrifiCon. Join us there in person. You'll be glad you did. I'm out of here for today. I still have a lot of work to do. My goodness, the celebration continues because next time on Comic Book Central, it is my 12th anniversary celebration. I know I'm running behind. It's a little late. I always get these out here. It is my look back at the memorable moments from the past year on the show. Get those anniversary greetings in right now. You're almost out of time. I want to get them on the show for the next time we get together. Until then, keep safe, keep reading those comics, and thanks for joining me here in the lair. Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Comic Book Central. All other content and names are registered trademarks and copyrights of their respective holders.